If you could have a drink with anyone in the theater world, who would it be? I'm Anthony Caporale, and I'm running through my list. Each week, I'll sit down with cast members, bartenders, and personalities from New York's theater district and get a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to live, work, and play on Broadway. Come have a drink with us on Broadway Bartender. Welcome to Broadway Bartender. My name is Anthony Caporale, and as always, we are here at New World Stages in the heart of Manhattan's theater district, home to my show, The Imbible, A Spirited History, and also our newest show, The Imbible Day Drinking. We're going to start out with a drink called the Miami Beach Cocktail, and as always, you'll find out why in just a minute. We're going to start with a mixing tin, and I'm going to fill it about halfway with ice. And this drink is a variation on really the Manhattan, but even a build on that called the Rob Roy, which is a Manhattan made with scotch. So we're going to start with 1 ounce of scotch per drink, and I'm making 3 drinks. So if you are a math major, you know that is 3 ounces. And I'm doing equal parts dry vermouth, so 3 ounces of dry vermouth. And then that's obviously our Manhattan / Rob Roy base. It would be a dry Manhattan. And then 3 ounces of grapefruit juice to give it a little bit of bitter, but also sweetness. I'm gonna shake that up really, really well. And I wanna chill this drink. I wanna dilute some of that alcohol down. And I also wanna aerate the drink. I wanna introduce some air bubbles. One of the things that I love about working with fruit juices is that they foam up really, really well, and they give you a nice head on the drink, nice froth. That captures all of the aroma in the drink, and so that allows the flavors of the drink to hit your nose. And that's really, the nose does most of the heavy lifting when it comes to taste and flavor. And you can see how wonderful that is. This drink doesn't even need a garnish. This is our Miami Beach cocktail. In honor of our special guests this week, we have James Walsh and Sam Chichuvas. James is the playwright of Jimmy and Carolyn, yes? Right. And Sam is one of the leads in that show.
Yes. Jimmy, not Carolyn.
Jimmy, not Carolyn. Yeah. So gentlemen, why don't you give that, I'm going to say give it a little smell first, yeah?
Perfect. Cheers, by the way.
Cheers. Welcome to New World Stages and Broadway Bartender.
This is now...
See what I mean about those bubbles just getting right to your nose?
Oh, I love it.
It's a good drink.
Can we have a second? No.
You can have, you're gonna make the second drink. We always do 2. Okay.
It's delicious.
Good, yeah. So we started with a drink named after a town in Florida, and I'm going to let you explain to our viewers why.
Well, my parents live in Florida, and that's how they pronounce it.
Say it again.
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, not Florida, Florida.
F-L-A-H.
And everything is better in Florida, as you know.
Sure,
Just ask my mother, which is actually explored in the play. And so they live in Florida. They're originally from Rhode Island, where I'm from, where the play takes place, in a little place called Weekapaug, Rhode Island.
Real town?
It's a real town. Yeah, it's right near Watch Hill.
Great name, yeah.
Yeah, Weekapaug. Yeah, so they now live in Florida. So they come up from Florida to visit myself and my partner, William, who's from Costa Rica. Okay. And so they come to visit. This was 2 years ago, Labor Day. So they come up from Florida. So this is a perfect, and they love anything Florida related or anything alcohol related.
Lovely. So tell us about the show. What is the central conceit of the play? What is it about?
Well, I think it's sort of, Sam, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you've done a production of Virginia Woolf, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it has a kind of Virginia Woolf feeling to it. Virginia Woolf meets O'Neill.
Yeah, but this is much more realistic. There's never. You know, by the third act of Virginia Woolf, you're in vaguely surreal territory. And here, this is the thing that so impressed me when I read the script initially was, as I just told James, I've just met James.
We just met.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
You met
yes.
your leading man at Broadway Bartender.
Mail order bride.
We spoke over the phone, but we're just meeting for the first time. But the real sincerity of the writing captured me. And there's no curlicues, nothing fancy, authorial. It's just very direct, and it's funny, and it's sad, like life. You know?
Wow. Well said, sir.
Well, very well said, Sam. Sisyphus, by the way. Sisyphus.
Well,
Oh, he did?
For some reason, we say Chuchubas, but the really Greek way would be Tsutsuvas.
This is what
that's it.
I
yeah.
was gonna say that,
Yeah.
but then I get phonetic cheat sheets to make sure I don't mispronounce
like
people's names.
tsetse fly.
Tsutsuvas, right?
Tsutsuvas,
Exactly.
yeah, that's very good.
Thank
Is that
you.
what you said?
Italian.
I'm correcting you. Is
No,
that what
I
you-
said chichuvas.
Oh.
Yeah, like.
So I'm the one with the completely wrong
No,
pronunciation.
there's no.
Tsutsuvas.
It's an
Just
alternative
Sam,
fact.
James.
Sam.
Is all it
Just
Sam.
is.
Yeah.
Just an alternative
That's
fact.
true.
So,
Okay.
Tsutsuvas.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So it was the authenticity. Is that what drew you to the role?
Yeah.
And you play the father, just to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the humor. I mean, there's a description of the character. He says, "Dry as bone humor," and that is true. I mean, just the facts, man, and it's very funny.
Well, and I said, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Because part of the fun of going to see that play, of course, is seeing those two put on a show, right? And that's sort of what these two characters, Carolyn, who's your wife, who's the mother, and Jimmy, the father, I mean, that's what you're basically watching, is this crazy vaudeville act, basically. of
Between these two.
Yes, yes. And it's turned dark. I mean, it's very
no,
funny.
but don't short yourself, because I mean,
Never done that.
yeah,
I don't intend
he
to now.
is a major character because he's receiving all of the impact of our shenanigans, and we see the difficulty he has had asserting himself and growing up in this, menage. So
Yeah.
Now, are you actually, because you're an actor as well?
Yeah, no,
You're not in the show?
No, I'm not in the show, and it's I thought about being in the show because I wrote a part for myself, and but in the final analysis, speaking to the director and the artistic director, Taryn Sacramone, our director is Brooke Cardelle, by the way. You've worked with Brooke before, right?
yeah, but when she was Brooke Wexler,
Oh, okay. Cardelle is her married name?
I guess.
Yeah, that is her.
That's
married
why
name. I am real. The
Something
name
changed.
thing is really
Right,
not happening.
okay.
Anyway.
Brooke.
But anyway, I thought about it playing the part, but it just adds a whole other dynamic to the cast when the writer is playing himself in the play. I think it intimidates other actors. I think
Yes.
and I think it puts this impression on the play that there's one way to do this, and I'm here as the voice of authority and reason. And also, and I think this is the smartest reason, it's the first production of the play, and I think as the playwright, I need to be in the audience, sort of observing and listening and being an audience member.
Right.
I can't be on stage and be watching the audience at the same time, So maybe eventually, but we have a wonderful actor playing James. His name is Brad Bradley, Broadway veteran, been in 10 shows. We worked on Mary Poppins together twice at North Shore and the Tunic Theater by the Sea. But he's been in Spamalot and Billy Elliot. So he's a very good friend of mine. And we had a very difficult time casting that part. And we eventually came down to him, partly because he's a friend, he knows me very well, he's been to my house, he's met my parents, and he's a tremendous actor. So it's the closest to my playing the part that you could possibly get, I guess.
Right,
Unless
right,
my
right.
brother played that part.
Yeah, that's interesting. We actually had one of the actors in Beautiful here, and one of the things we talked about was what are the challenges in playing a real person without becoming imitative.
Right.
And I think she talked about how you have to sort of channel the essence of the person without trying to be an imitation of the person.
Well, I mean, it's a big challenge, and luckily we have such a wonderful director, but it is a big challenge. I mean, these characters are written they're basically carbon copies of the real people, and their banter. So there is an energy and electricity and a way that they communicate that has to be there for the play to work.
Right.
That said, you want to have the experience where you can see any actor step in and interpret the role, and it still works.
Right.
So that's kind of what this first production would be about, I guess.
Okay, so I want to talk about when it's going to run, where it's going to run,
Okay.
the venue, all that great stuff. But I have to ask you, I'm always fascinated by folks that write very autobiographical pieces, and I'd love your take on this as well. Because one of the things I think that people learn early on as a writer is that you have to write what's true. And a lot of writers, I think, write things that are sometimes very painful to put down on the page. And when they're not painful for themselves, they may be painful for the people that they are writing about oftentimes. But I think the common wisdom is that if you're not willing to cross that line and share those things, you haven't created an interesting piece, because really, unless somebody's getting pissed off, it's not interesting to watch, right? Right. That's the reality of it. So did you draw those lines? How do you draw those lines? Or, you know, your parents are still with us, and they are going to see the show at some point, I'm sure. Talk to me about that process. That's fascinating to me.
The play is based on a series, I was just telling Sam this, a series of events that actually happened. What is in that play actually happened. Now, and I thought that it was, you know, important enough and life-changing enough what happened that it should be put into some sort of, I had to put it down on paper. It wasn't a kind of like, oh, that would make an interesting play, that's a good idea. I didn't know what else to do with these events that happened. They were so extreme in a lifetime of, you know, some pretty extreme behavior. And so when I just started writing it, to your point, I know these people so well that the play just, I mean, I hate to say this, but it just kind of wrote itself. In terms of where I had to go, it was a very emotional experience, actually. It's a very emotional experience reading it. I was very emotional in the callbacks, listening to people read, because this is a sort of a crucible of who I am in that play. And so it's not easy, but it's not painful. It's just cathartic, you know. It was a very cathartic experience. And
so
to make yourself
pull
laugh.
any punches. You put it all out there. I mean, just off the top of my head, Other Desert Cities, I think the entire play was about whether it was appropriate to write a play about your family. I mean, that was the conflict of the show, right? So because you can't, you know, names were changed to protect the innocent. Well, you can't really do that. It's my dad. You're going to figure that out, right? And so you were okay with that. I mean, that wasn't, I mean, I'm sure it was difficult, but you were okay with the fact that you were going to write something true, that was the way that you saw the events, your parents were going to see it, your family was going to see it, the world was going to see it.
Yeah, and I think that the person I'm the most honest about is myself. It's not a flattering portrayal of me either, right? I mean,
no, it's not a flattering portrayal of anybody. No, except
you agree. See, this is what you get by putting someone else in the role.
Except your partner, William. I think is the most sympathetic role in the play.
right, and he's from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So it's George and Martha and their gay son, fancy pants son, and his partner, who's a landscaper from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
You know, add Pinot Grigio and cook, you know, simmer.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and I have to say that once I really got into this play, I wrote it wrote itself in about a month and a half. We have a home in Costa Rica, so the second half of it, the second act, I wrote in a week. It just happened. And what happened was I knew that by finishing this play, I was going to turn a corner in my life with my parents, with who I was, and how I felt about myself. So it wasn't a painful experience. It was a
catharsis.
A catharsis. It was a life-changing experience.
And have they read the script?
Yes. It's very interesting. They read it. My mother read it. She was the first person to read it. And you know, it's worse when someone reads what you've written, because you can't just like go to another room or go to Bermuda. You know, you have to like sit there while they're reading it. And so she, in Florida, in her sunroom, her Florida room, I guess is what they call it in Florida. Anyway, she's reading it, and I hear her laughing. She got the cigarette going. Oh, God, oh, my. And then the tears start coming, and she had a whole experience. And she read the play, and she said, I mean, she was really quite blown away by it. And then she said, I'm going to imitate her. She said, Jimmy, do I really act this way? And I said, yeah, Mom, you do. Wow. But I wouldn't write a play about it if I didn't love it and love you for it. And she said something so interesting. She said, I will never act that way again. I promise you, I will never act that way again. And I said, Mom, that's not why I wrote the play.
What? That's so interesting.
So then I take her to Europe last summer. We went on a trip. I took her to Italy and the whole thing for 2 weeks.
Your dad was there too?
No, just my mother. It was for her birthday. I won't say her age because she'll kill me when she sees this. But I took her for her birthday, something I promised, and we did the whole tour, the grand tour from London, Paris, all the way to Rome, Positano. She's Italian, of course, Mastroianni. And I was a little dreading this trip, a little dreading it, all by myself with my mother for 2 weeks. And I have to say, she turned out to be the single best person I've ever traveled with. Wow. She was absolutely, and she has changed. She has changed. It changed, the play changed my life and changed our lives.
Wow.
So it's very interesting, right? So
I mean, they say the best art holds a mirror up to reality, right? And if
I
you don't
guess
like what
so.
you see in the mirror, you have an opportunity to change it.
I guess so. And you know, as the writer, when you're willing to expose, because I expose some not so such nice things about myself in this play, I think once you're willing to do that, anyone else you write about, they see that, well, this poor son of a bitch really, I mean, he's really screwed up. You know what I mean? So it's very, you know, it's very interesting.
Wow. So how did you get involved with the show?
They just asked me to read the script. They called me in at the last minute, and then they told me that it was going to have 10 days of rehearsal, and I thought, no, I'm not going in for this. I liked the material very much. I'd actually worked on it, and the audition was, you know, up the block, and I just said, nah, I'm not doing it. So they called the next day, and and then Brooke turned out to be the Brooke I knew. Then Lisa Harrow turned out to be the actress. And because theater is so promiscuous, because you never know who you're going to be acting with. I mean, right. I could go in, read for this role, get it, and then find that the person I'm playing opposite is some harridan that I hate or is not talented or something. So fine, it's terrible. So then, oh, Lisa Harrow, yeah, well, we've worked together very successfully in the past. So I thought, oh yeah, I like this. In 10 days, that's fine. Uta Hagen said, you know, you can do a nice sketch in 10 days, and maybe it's just the beginning of the experience, and then you go on and develop it and whatever. So that's how I got involved. And I'm very happy to be involved in this. I love to do new work. It's just often new work doesn't capture me the way that this particular script did.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the things you've done before this. I mean, you've been obviously in the business for
100 years, 100 years. Anthony. I just turned 69 on Sunday.
Aeschylus. That was his first job.
Yes, I was in the Oresteia. Yeah.
Patty, right?
No, I was in the first class of drama at the Juilliard School, and that was my...
Whoa!
Yeah, no, that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
No, and I was a founding member of the acting company by John Houseman, and yeah, Patti LuPone and Kevin Kline and everybody there, and it was a wonderful jumping off place for my career. You know, and I've done national tours and done a lot of Shakespeare and classics and all of that stuff. But all the more reason I love new plays,
yeah.
You know, and I was telling him, I've worked with so many dead authors, and the advantage is that they're not there to screw you up, but they're also not there to answer questions. And I have so many questions, and it's so great that I can go to James and say, well, what, you know, and hopefully he will answer them.
I couldn't answer the one you asked me outside before in the green room. I couldn't answer that. Did you hear that?
No,
I was a little embarrassed. I was like, okay, let's talk about this later. Because he was sitting right there. It was a question about why, you know, it's very interesting when you're in writing, because I've written, you know, I write a lot of film and television. But what's interesting is when you're writing something, there's a logic to the way people think and express themselves, which you can't always follow in a linear, mathematical way.
Right.
They jump to a next topic, and that's what you brought up. And so when Sam asked me, how does this conversation go to death? I don't know, but I know that it does.
Right.
Because I know that that's how, you know, and that's a struggle I have with getting feedback, not your feedback, but any kind of feedback, is it's a different brain that analyzes a play than the brain that writes a play. Right. You know, this play doesn't have some big bow on the package resolution, but it has a resolution.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have a resolution.
No, it doesn't.
But it doesn't.
I think the best plays don't have resolutions.
And so, thank you, Sam. And so, when we did a major reading on the West Coast with 2 actors out there. One of the things that came back from several people was, I think you need to resolve the story. And I struggled with that. And I thought, well, there is no resolution to this story. There is, in the real story, there's no resolution.
There's no resolution to life,
so why would,
right?
Exactly. So why would I put a resolution?
Right.
Right.
I want people to leave the theater talking about what they think happened next. And I happen to think that the end of Act One, we're not going to share it, we're not going to spoil it, but I think the end, how Act One ends, right, is one of the best cliffhangers. I mean, I wanted to write an Act One ending so that when people go out to have their cocktails in the intermission, they're like buzz and can't wait to get back in that theater and see what happens. Yeah, it's a really good ending to Act
wow,
One.
I can't wait to see
He
it.
left himself alone on the stage in a spotlight, but nonetheless.
Wow,
But that's not the part I'm talking about.
No.
But it's a very, yeah. So,
I would, you know, you're talking about autobiographical material, and I'm reminded of the reports of when O'Neill was writing Long Day's Journey into Night. He'd go up, and then he would come down after 10 hours in the room and just be weeping and spent, and it's a great investment and digging, and yeah.
but
admirable.
it's not an intellectual thing. It's not a cerebral thing. It's not, okay, I mean, once the characters start talking to you and start telling you where they're going with this, you're just sort of taking notes and kind of writing it down. And so they take you to places that are electrifying. I mean, because you're not ready for them to say what they say in the context of what they're saying or what they do. And imagine that. They're in your...
Right.
So you really are
transcribing,
exercising demons that are in your head.
Well, this is why the autobiography is such an interesting form for me, because it's you know, kissing cousins to the biography, which is clearly a documentary form.
That's right.
And so this is a very unique blend of documentary, fiction, your life, emotion, psychoanalysis, all this stuff, like in this one, you know, work that I just think is absolutely fascinating, and I think on some level must be costly. But I think it's incredibly rewarding when it's done well for the audience, because you share that person's firsthand experiences, right?
I hope so. And I didn't think of it at the time when I was writing it, but the first reading we did in LA and then the one we did in New York, all these people came up to me afterward and said, boy, that's so brave of you, James. I'm so amazed that you shared so much about, and I didn't think of it that way. I was like, oh, really? Is that really, did I did I reveal too many of my secrets? You know, I wasn't thinking about it. But I knew we were onto something when, at the reading in New York, this Chinese woman, she was Chinese, very Chinese, thick accent. I won't imitate her because you'll get in trouble if I do. But she came up to me after the reading and was just sobbing and just told me how much that was her mother and those were her parents. And I'm like, huh? Yeah. That she just, those were her parents.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, we're onto something here.
Because
these are very
personal. You've derived something very universal.
I think so, the universal and the particular, right? That's like an Aristotelian idea.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Right?
That's exactly what it is.
So I kind of knew that we were onto something.
Wow.
When the Chinese lady, you know, tells you that that's her family.
That's amazing.
Okay, I was like, all right, terrific.
So I do want to get you to make a drink that's going to plant us firmly in Rhode Island and the Italian. That's my lineage well. But I want to talk very briefly about the venue, because I think that it's a phenomenal venue that I'd like people to know more about.
It is. I think it's a.
So where is it? What are we talking about?
It's at the Queen's Theater in the Park, which is in the old fairgrounds in the Corona. Is that Corona? Is that what that is?
I believe Flushing, maybe. I don't know, something
Flushing
like that.
Corner.
But yeah. So Men in Black fans, it's the place where the spaceships are at the end of the movie. Those things turn into spaceships at the end of Men in Black.
Oh, those two tall towers?
Yeah. That's how the whole rest of the world knows that place, by the way. It's from Men in Black. But, and the theater's literally right below it. The
theater is right, it's the spaceship right below it. It's the first production of the play.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
I mean,
you
it sounds
so
like an
much.
amazing
I think it's going to
play.
be great.
It sounds like an amazing venue, an amazing cast. Good get, by the way. Really good get.
No, because by the way, Sam, I don't know if you know, we saw a lot of people for your part, for your role, and no one quite, they were around the bullseye, but not in the bullseye. And, you know, I really went on the director.
You haven't seen me yet.
Well, listen, that's true. So, but you're closer to the bullseye. But when Brooke said, you know, we should consider Sam, Lisa's worked with him, Lisa Harrow, who's playing Carolyn, and then I had never met Sam. So when I walked in today, I was like bracing myself for like someone whose energy, appearance was completely wrong, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I feel like I'm actually sitting here with the real person.
I
So
love that you guys just met,
I know,
like
isn't that crazy?
in makeup.
Isn't that crazy? And he's asking me like the most personal questions
Wow,
about.
good.
You invited me. I said, I
No,
don't
I
mean
want
to
you
pry. and
No,
he
I
said-
want you to invite. And he's got the script out with the line. Of course, I want you to. Please.
You're not a dead guy. That's the advantage. That's why he's
Not
doing
yet,
this.
Not yet. Not yet. I felt like one last night. But
Awesome.
anyway.
So you want to make a drink?
I do.
All right. Why don't you come back here?
Okay.
We're going to switch places. I'm going to set these glasses up for you, and I'm going to make this really, really easy. So, welcome to the bar in the green room at New World Stages. So you mentioned Pinot Grigio
Yes.
in your press materials. Does the actors actually drink Pinot Grigio in the show, or is that more of a sort of a memory that you had growing up?
Oh, that's what my mother.
That's her drink.
Oh, absolutely.
Great. So I couldn't just have you pour a glass of Pinot Grigio. So we're going to turn it into a Kier.
Love it.
Yeah, good.
Like a Pinot Kier.
yeah.
I love that.
Yes, it's
Okay.
going to be a Pinot Kier. So a
Perfect.
Kier is white wine with creme de cassis, which is a berry, cassis berry. And the upscale version of a Kier is called a Kier Royale, which is made with Chambord.
Right.
Black raspberry, specifically in champagne. We're going to do a hybrid. We're going to do a Kier, not Royale, sort of a Kier, let's call it upper middle class Kier. So we're going to do Chambord and...
How about a Kier Bourgeois?
I love it. See,
I
that's
was
why he's
I
the
was a
writer.
French major in
Great.
college.
So right on your left is a bottle of Chambord. There you go. And I just want you to do, when we measure without a jigger, we count in our heads, and that's
Right.
how we know how much. Have you ever pretended bar?
I did.
Well, so I'm explaining
I think I did.
all
Yeah,
these things.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Good. So
I
just
was a math major at Columbia too. So when you said the thing about math, I really feel I had an edge on this.
wow, math major at
Yes,
Columbia,
I went on a math scholarship, believe it or not.
turned actor turned writer. I love
I
this.
went on a math scholarship. Yeah,
I
I
love
was
it.
a mathlete.
Really? I was a
Right.
mechanical engineer, so the acting world is full of us, apparently. I know the music world certainly is full of
Oh
mathematicians.
well, I
so-
mean, math is a language. So once
Absolutely.
you master math, you kind of master the patterns of the universe.
Yeah.
I'm working on another thing actually about Isaac Newton, the greatest mind in human history, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm working on a new musical. I don't know if you saw that reboot of Cosmos they did a couple of years
I
ago.
did.
My friend Caravalo and produced it. She's the head of the Fox Animation Studio. I was blown away by it. Anyway, the episode on Newton really blew my mind. I mean, he basically took a fixed universe and set it into motion with all of the math that goes along with it by the time he was like 20 years old, 22 years old. Yeah. He invented calculus. He didn't really invent or discover gravity, but he wrote the mathematics to define gravity.
Right,
That's what he
right.
really did. I
Yeah.
mean, gravity, we all knew it existed, but he figured out how it actually works mathematically. And so even Einstein and all the scientists that came after him, it's all about Newton.
Dude, I would
Neil
love
deGrasse Tyson.
to see this. This would be like the science version of Hamilton.
I probably shouldn't
Can I
even
say
talk
that?
about it. Yeah,
Dude, I would love to see. That's
it's
right
like,
up my alley.
It's like
man. That's
Matilda
awesome.
meets Hamilton, yeah.
But there,
I mean, he
I'm
was
sold.
he
You
was
got
an-
one advance ticket right here.
He was an
Done.
orphan. He was orphaned at a very young age, and he was really, here's the part I really love. He wasn't considered a scientist. He was an alchemist, which was absolutely heretical at the time. I mean, when you were discovered as an alchemist, you were basically dragged to the street and set on fire. So he started, his earliest experimentation was alchemy. That was his main, he was an orphan, like I said, no father, no mother. And this alchemist, which would be a great part for you, Sam, the alchemist, like a local alchemist, that's doing crazy experiments in his basement, takes Newton under his wing, and that's when Newton really...
All right, so what I want then is the math major, just a one count, just one in each of those glasses.
So like a long one?
Nope,
or-
just a bloop. What we're going for is about a half ounce.
Okay.
Okay.
So like one.
Yep, that's perfect.
One.
Yep.
One. It's like,
Yep,
God, I
that's
hope
it.
I get it. It's
And
like,
now the
honestly.
hard. Now there's a bottle of Pinot Grigio.
Okay.
Should be on
Open?
your. Yep,
You are
right
so,
there.
look at this. And this is what bartenders do, right? They go like that.
Hospitable.
You
Correct.
are hospitable.
And now we want to fill this. That's it. This is the end of the drink.
Oh.
Just fill it about 2/3 of the way up. And while we're talking about this, I want to
How's
just kind
that?
of show, that's perfect. So any glass that's shaped like what we call a bowl,
Yeah.
the right level is always the widest part of the bowl.
Oh,
that's
really?
that's
I
how
didn't know
glass,
that.
yeah. So a lot of people think, just so, unless you're in like a, you know, family style red and white checker cloth Italian restaurant, they'll fill it all at the top
Or at the-
because it's a little glass. But all the other bowls, you can always tell the right level by going to the widest part of the bowl. Great, look at that.
I mean, that's pretty damn
That's
good,
beautiful.
Right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that is our Pinot Grigio
Beautiful.
Kier.
Now I do this, right?
You do
The
that, yes.
napkins.
I always like to do that. I'm crazy about having something to.
Well, aren't you
Keep my
supposed to
fingers
actually
clean.
hold your cocktail with a napkin?
Well, I mean,
I know a drag
guess
queen that's
maybe
always
in like
doing
the
it.
Victorian days. I just like to have it there because there's always schmutz on the bar.
I see.
But the other
So
thing
you're
is
one of
that,
those people.
yeah. I'll tell you the truth though, is when you do that,
Yeah.
there are guests who will come up and just grab the drink off the bar rail, and a lot of times it's not done. You're garnishing yourself. So my indication to the guest is when I place it on the cocktail napkin, that's finished.
Well, see, and that is exactly what I intuited when you did that.
There you go.
There
You don't
was a
teach people.
ceremony to it, like a geisha tea service kind of a thing.
Yeah, and we're all about ritual in the beverage world. We really are.
No.
Everything. We try and create rituals, shots, and
I love
you got to
it.
do this before you cheers, and you know.
Right.
Anyway, all right. So,
Cheers.
Cheers.
The Irish know you have to look
Congratulations.
in the eyes
You
or it's
got
bad
to.
luck. You know that, right?
Slancha.
Slancha.
That's nice, right?
This is
Oh,
perfect.
that is nice.
Yeah,
Sam,
that's
I
really
thought
nice.
you didn't have a taste for alcohol.
So if your mom,
That's- I like
if your Italian mom wants to do a version, is have her do Frangelico instead of Chambord, which is hazelnut, and it's Italian, and it's also phenomenal in this. So you can
great.
play with all kinds of
Isn't it good?
liqueurs.
That is lovely.
Yeah, in these.
Yeah.
And so you're not a drinker.
No,
But
not
this
a
is
bit.
something you can enjoy.
Yeah.
Could have fooled
Lovely.
me.
Yeah.
Sorry about starting off with scotch. Website. Give me website. Give me run date. Give me
Okay, so
everything
the
people need to know
website
about
is,
tickets. Name the
Queens-
show again.
It's Jimmy and Caroline. The website is queenstheater.org. They have a really nice website, actually. It opens on September 15th, runs for 3 weekends in their developmental black box space. Tickets are not expensive, amazing. I think it runs Thursday through Sunday and then Friday through Sunday. It's all online. There's 2 shows on Saturdays, but it's a standard 2 and 8 or 2 and 7 and whatever.
Great. And
Yeah.
our viewers can find all that information on BroadwayBartender.com, along with recipes, links, all kinds of good stuff. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This
What a
is-
pleasure.
I could stay all day here.
And I could
you know,
as
we,
well.
All our friends are here. We're all cheers.
Good luck.
Thanks, Anthony,
Congratulations.
for having us. This is
Folks,
wonderful.
drink
Yes.
well, drink responsibly. Good, yeah.
Anthony, you're an ace. I was dreading this. But
Oh, boy.
no, you're a good guy. That
What
really,
a wonderful,
You are a good guy,
wonderful
Anthony.
compliment. That
Yeah.
really means a lot to me. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
That's
Yeah.
very true. Often
Thank
you
you.
do things like this, and you meet the host, and then you get on camera. It's like, wait a minute, what happened to that nice person a minute ago? Right? They turn into this like creature.
Okay, so I was told that you both do, I guess, some impressions of folks. Can we get like a little sample of some of the things that you do?
Sure.
Yeah? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, what can I do? Do I need to set you up or anything, or you just want to do some stuff?
I don't know. How would you set us up?
I have no idea. That's why
Okay.
I'm completely useless at this point.
Great,
So
great.
good. So just do your thing.
Okay. Well, Melania is kind of like this. Like, oh, Anthony, I'm so very happy to be here with you today. Like that. Go ahead.
Go back and forth.
I do less impressions, but one of my characters that I really love to do is Conchita, and she's like, "Hola, my name is Conchita, and I will be your chambermaid. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask. Some fresh towels, a bucket full of ice, a turn-down service with a trompe steak on your pillow."
And she's a chambermaid at.
Hotel Mar-a-Lago.
Oh man.